Background. Charlene put all that stuff in the background actually. The pads.
All the cool
So
purple stuff.
so when the dogs are barking, you don't hear them. I think we are
Nice. That's cool.
live. Let me just see something. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
We are live. Okay, there we go. So we just got
My
like,
glasses on.
yeah. Should I put on my glasses too?
Yeah.
I don't look as cool as you, so let me see. Oh,
I
it's
don't know about that.
I don't know about that either. To
It's
wipe
almost
it and
music
stuff.
too.
Boom, boom, dum. All right, here we go. So, how do you close $1.2 million per year? Let's go.
Right. So before we go too far,
Wait, hold
go
on.
ahead.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Zen here with Close One. Welcome to the Sales Power Hour edition. Today, we have Josh Gillespie joining us, and we will cover 3 topics. Number 1, how to stay hungry if you've been in the game for over a decade. Number 2, what do you do when deals go dark? And number 3, how do you close $1.2 million consistently, even during a pandemic? But real quick, let's say hello to our audience. So let's just make sure. Hello, YouTube, Facebook, everyone watching us, and most importantly, our LinkedIn people. I know that PandaDoc just liked our post, so they're probably tuned in right now. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. And feel free to ask us any questions. Ask Josh any questions. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, in 2013, Josh Gillespie started as the first AE at PandaDoc. He, along with co-founders, worked out of Mikita's apartment in Daly City, San Francisco, and since then, he's closed over $8 million. Today, his team of 500 plus employees refer to him as the OG Panda Sales Progenitor at PandaDoc. PandaDoc empowers over 26,000 organizations. They have closed they haven't closed. They've helped clients close over 5 billion deals in 2019. Today, Josh will teach us how to close $1.2 million per year, which he has beautifully executed in 2020. Please help me welcome Josh Gillespie. My man, brother, how you been? Happy Tuesday.
Doing good. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for having me. What an intro. Wow.
All right, so we're gonna jump right into the topic, but first, please tell our audience what is PandaDoc and how did you get started there? What was your journey like?
PandaDoc is a document solution software that I found pretty early on, as Zen was saying, in 2013, so just about 8 years ago. And at that time, I had a couple startup, sales jobs here in San Francisco, and was really just looking for a product that was new, that I liked myself, that I would use myself as a means of being able to kind of, put my spirit behind it and help sell it. Right, as we know in sales, it takes a lot to kind of carry us day to day, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year. And so you have to actually like what you're talking about, like what you're doing. And I thought PandaDoc, which was actually called Quote Roller at the time, was just a really cool thing that would help me in my own sales profession. So why not sell something that I would use to other salespeople? Seems to be congruent. And yeah, something that I could do every day. So here I am 8 years later, still doing it.
Wow, 8 years. So then that brings us to our next question. How do you stay hungry since you've been in the game for over a decade? Because we work together at Yelp. And so how do you
Yeah.
stay hungry?
I think this is a very personal question. So it definitely goes back to like what motivates you. And what motivates you might change, right, as you grow in your career or grow a company. For me, like the motivational kind of milestones changed. Like, I just wanted to be successful as the first salesperson at a startup, right? Like get in early at the ground somewhere, rub shoulders with my C-suite, my product team, have impact on an organization outside of just the revenue I produce. And so that was my goal. And I found, that type of company with PandaDoc, where I could get in early and, meet with our marketing team, meet with our product team, meet with our CTO and our CEO and discuss high level strategy. And that was, more interesting or also interesting or as interesting rather as just closing, new partnerships and new contracts. Of course, as the company grows, like as a seed company, your goal, of course, just to keep your job is like, cover your cost, right? Don't cost us more money than you make us. Like simple barometer for success for any kind of salesperson at a startup. And then, of course, as you take on financing, get past your seed round, your A round, the barometer for the multiplier of revenue that you have to bring in above covering your cost might go to 2x, then 3x, then 4x, then 5x. So really it's tough because, the goals are constantly going up as your company grows. And that can be hard, I think, emotionally to deal with because you might feel achieved in bringing in $100,000 or $200,000 in revenue your first year. In your second year, that might probably be considered a failure. So what motivates you is, I think, a deeply personal question. For me, I could go deep into that. But suffice it to say, I think it's always keeping a higher level goal that's at least 1 or 2 years out ahead of where you are today. And the highest level goal for me getting started with PandaDoc was like be a part of building $1 billion business.
Yeah.
Right. And that's pretty cool to think like as long as I continue to keep my seat, to improve my results and my metrics year to year, as the company grows, I could be a part of building $1 billion business from scratch. And that's always what's, in this world of software startups kept me intrigued because somebody's doing it every week, every month. Somebody's building $1 billion business. Somebody's getting, a huge round of financing or having a huge exit. And I just want to be a part of that crew.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes complete sense. I totally feel you because I too feel the exact same way. Being a contributor, even as a foot soldier, to see a startup go from 1 to 10 employees size, 50 employee size, 100 employee size. Now yours is 500 employee size. At Yelp, it was like thousands. It felt really good seeing that growth, but at the same time, what were some of the like conflict or challenges that you felt with that hyper growth sales organization? And let's just focus on the sales part.
It's tough. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a lot of people to manage if you're on the management side. I think over here we're, try to live by a Sun Tzu philosophy, which
Art
is
of war.
like, it's a matter of organization. Like the management of many is the same as the management of the few. So being, hyper focused on the success of your initial team in making your initial sales team, even a small one, repeatable, scalable, to the point where then it makes sense to scale your team. Because certainly as you add people into your sales org, usually the first thing that happens is the funnel goes down. You might not have as many leads, right?
Right.
I need leads to work.
Right.
And
Qualified leads too. Yeah.
And so becoming a builder of a book of business is way more important as the company grows versus just being a salesperson because there's a lot you can get to help yourself from your existing sales, right? Like how often do we really just ask for an existing customer to open up their Rolodex and refer us to their customers that might have similar needs? Or would they take a reference call for us with another prospect who's evaluating us? And we want to have a strong play by having them talk to an existing customer. Will they work with our marketing team to give us some good content and talk about business outcomes that they've achieved with PandaDoc so that we have a case study? Like how else can we build our business or make the act of prospecting easier over time, knowing that it's going to get more competitive, right, internally?
Wow, that's another level. Not many salespeople, I can even go as far as maybe 90%, 99% of salespeople do not ask for referrals there, or even ask referrals to hop on a call with, to make your company look good. That is a very unique piece on how to build your book of business. How do you actually do that? Like, how do you approach?
It's it's disqualification, and it's reciprocity. So it's interesting, like on the reciprocity side, anytime any existing customer or prospect says anything good to you or about you, or they exude some confidence or happiness about your product or the sale, that is your opening of the door and opportunity to ask for something back. Oh, great. You like this about our product or our service? You had a fantastic time, working with me pre-sale. You had a great time onboarding. You've achieved greater success
Got promoted.
post-sale than you thought. That I maybe under-promised and over-delivered. Great. Like, can you, in lieu of that feedback, give me a case study? Can you introduce me to other, partners that you have that you think would want to have a discovery call with me? Would you take a reference call? Is there anyone else inside your org that maybe has a potential workflow or use case for the same solution that I haven't spoken to yet, right? Like expansion within an existing account. Oftentimes if your target account is in the mid-market or enterprise space, I mean, usually your third, fourth, fifth contract is going to be the big one, not that first one. So yeah, I think reciprocity is huge. And as it relates to disqualification on the other side, if we're not getting the level of engagement, the excitement, the exuberance, someone willing to willing to be a champion, willing to do things on their side in exchange for all the work that we're doing on the sales side, then you have to disqualify them and open up that time to prospect and work on other partnerships.
Oh my God, please tell our audience, how do you actually disqualify prospects? Because I learned this from you, and before you became my personal leader, my personal boss, I actually didn't disqualify people. I would hop on every single call because my mentality was the more conversations you could connect with, the more you could convert. But that is not the reality at all. You have to think about the hours in the clock. Like, you only have so much time and so much items on your laundry list to complete. And so my paradigm completely changed because of you. And so what and how do you disqualify people from the get-go to not waste your time?
It's one of the first and last thoughts I have during the sales day, which is we are in the business of disqualification. And it's really important as you progress your sales career, whether you stay in one role for a long time like I have, or even if you jump around and like move up market. One of the most successful calls for me is when I can disqualify a highly interested prospect within 5 minutes, but they don't want the solution that I'm offering. Why would I try to, I mean, in some instances, you might be able to segue their interest into your offering, and there's probably some art, and you should try, in that, and you should try to do that. But with like, we know when we're having a bad phone call. We know when a prospect is interested in something other than we can provide, and instead of over-promising, under-delivering, or dragging this prospect through the glass of something unrelated to their line of interest, I'd rather just upfront attempt to disqualify them. And what happens is you either save yourself a lot of time from having a really rough call, or the Jedi mind trick of them understanding they're being disqualified by a salesperson so fast and saying, oh, no, wait, I might have another idea for you. Like, hold on, like, don't hang up on me yet. And it really kind of reverses the tables as well as like flips the trust, where now like they're pitching to you what they would want, with the understanding that you're solutioning for them and consulting them as to if that's possible, and not trying to sell them something that they don't want or don't need or won't fit like their requirements. And with all that said, like, disqualification also flips internally. Like, it's not just something to use with potentially bad prospects or customers that don't fit our ICP. It's with the wealth and the bevy, especially as an organization grows, of internal invites you get to certain types of action committees or meetings. I mean, it's fun to participate in other types of calls, and I think as salespeople, we often want to accept those types of calls because they give us a break in our day.
Yeah.
But really, that's taking a whole hour out of your day where you could otherwise be selling. So disqualify your own organization when they have an idea to include you for something that, unless it's a hard requirement for training purposes that you attend, like by all means, like say I'm busy with my day, I can't attend this, and don't go. So yeah, disqualifying is really the only levers we have of creating additional time in our day, right? And ultimately, what you do at that time is, what can make you successful or not.
Yeah. I am a witness to Josh's ways. I have seen it. I've seen him say no to meetings, only to close deals. And so that is one mentality I have personally embodied from him, working with him for so long. I say no to a bunch of meetings because I too want to have selling activities and I just want to focus on overcoming objections. And this particular stream is very important to me because it helps me up my game. It reminds me of how to sell again. And that's why I love connecting with amazing account executive, enterprise account executive. And so please tell us like that mindset on how to stay hungry. What is the one thing that you do every day? Because it gets tough. Like sales is such a mental game. It's an emotional game. Most people think it's just a mouthpiece game, but it's not. There's a lot to it psychologically that we do. But how do you stay hungry? What is your mentality? What do you do every day to stay hungry?
Well, first off, I think necessity breeds success. So I think for me, being a single income earner in the Bay Area with a mortgage, with the family, like that drives you. I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and buy a house and get married if you're not ready for all that yet. But for me, it's certainly having my life at a certain point, like puts everything in perspective with respect to work, right? And in sales, like, I think it's more a mastery of conquering yourself as opposed to conquering the game or some prospect or some talk track. It's what within you will require you to essentially live by what I call is the 6 to 6 rule. So I'm essentially have an open calendar every single business day of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, it doesn't mean I'm on calls all 12 hours. And certainly if I have an early call at 6 a.m., I'm here in San Francisco. So we're already at a disadvantage waking up 3 hours later than a lot of territories or East Coast cohorts. So for me, waking up at 6, being work, like it's probably at least every other day where I have a call at 6 or 6:30 in the morning with someone on the East Coast or someone based in the UK. And so that's like, I have to get up and early, right, to compete for just the rest of the country, or certainly if I'm selling into a region that's far east of me. And then I might have a call at 3 or 4 or 5 p.m. with someone in Australia or New Zealand. And so certainly you have to take care of your mentals, right? And make sure you take care of your breaks and get your little yoga or meditation session in and eat lunch, go take the dogs for a walk if you have these 12-hour days. But sales really is about being available and having as many conversations as possible. And if you close off your calendar to even 8 or 9 hours a day, or if you put like tasks on your calendar that block off someone else's ability to book a call with you, that's really bad. So for me, it's just being available 12 hours a day, because at the end of the day, it is a hustler's game. And if you want to make a lot of money, you really have to attempt to outwork your CEO or someone that cares deeply about the business. You have to care just as deeply about that. And so for me, it helped getting in early at PandaDoc because I got to care about the business at a deeper level emotionally beyond, my own sales results or my own revenue. And so that also helps carry me through, a lot of long days. But 6 to 6 rule is really what I live by.
Wow, you're one of a kind. Outworking your CEO, just that statement alone. I mean, think about this, because most founders, they're trying to think about finding the right type of talent to work as hard as them, because founders work so hard building their startup. I've experienced it, and it is insanely challenging. So to find someone like you with that kind of mentality is almost a blessing. They were very lucky to find you as the first AE at PandaDoc, and I think I'm even gonna say that a lot of the success can be contributed to your personal contribution. So, good fucking job. That's the only time I'm gonna swear. I don't usually swear on the show. I'm sorry, YouTube. I know I get.
So I can swear.
Yeah, I get
Now it's gonna get crazy.
penalized for that. My friend was like, "Don't swear." I'm like, "Yeah, I won't swear. I'm sorry." But damn, I'm so fucking impressed. There he goes again. Stop with that. So now, what do you do when deals go dark? So I understand that you have to be available. You're accessible. You don't block out your times. I block out
Yeah.
my times. I have to. I need this mental break sometimes, because I do pump out a lot of activities in a very short period of time. What do you do when deals go dark and they disappear?
I mean, you first have to ask, why did it go dark? And I think our first inclination is to then look inwards and say, I messed up, or I said the wrong thing, or I didn't present well, or maybe I rubbed them the wrong way, or I've inundated them with emails and LinkedIn, messages. And is it me, right? Is it me? Usually if somebody goes dark on you, it's because one of two things. Either they're just not the right person to receive your message, and they were receptive to it, and maybe we thought they had some authority or ability to be a coach or a champion for us, when in fact they don't. I mean, take me. I'm someone that's been at my company for 8 years, since they were, about 20 employees. Now we have 650. On the surface level, you would think I'd have some influence at PandaDoc over the solutions that we choose. I have zero influence. I mean, maybe I could force a little influence if I felt compelled, but I would really be a ineffective champion or coach. So even though on the surface level I look like someone you might want to loop in, and have a discovery call with, I think you'd have to take my word for it that unfortunately I'm not. And so it really is about finding, doing more research and finding out who's who in the zoo, and making sure the right people are presented to. The second reason would be there's just simply no initiative that either I can tie or that the prospect can tie to the service or product that I'm pitching, which also points to maybe a lack of research. And so I think both those items, even in 5 minutes, you can go online and find out a lot about an org, about their trends, about any recent news in Google. You can, if they're a public company, find their 10K, in which for sure there's a bunch of initiatives they've listed publicly that we can tie our product or service to, as well as show them that, hey, we actually read this thing, as a means of getting an intro. Research is key, to know, again, who we're talking to, whether or not they have the possibility of being a viable champion or not. Asking some candid questions to get to that. Try to build some rapport and then get cut to the chase, and then using research as a method of hopefully saving yourself time from, again, just wasting time on conversations. Because if they go dark, guaranteed, they just didn't see any value, and they're probably not the right person, or maybe both.
What are some of the questions, the candid questions that you would ask in order to kind of rekindle that relationship again once you do, let's say, find the right person and there is an initiative?
Yeah, and I ask a lot of candid questions really as a means of attempting to disqualify and letting it be known that I'm attempting to disqualify, because it's in our best interest to not talk to each other if you don't have a reason to. You'd be surprised how many people, even at larger companies, are happy to just talk to you and hear you out for a half an hour, even though they have no intention of doing anything with that information, or no wherewithal or intent to be a champion, for whatever you're talking about from there. Ask me the question once more, though. You said,
If deals go dark, what are some of the candid questions that you would ask?
candid. Yeah. So, I mean, candidly, hey, I'm calling, let's take prospecting, the beginning of the sales cycle. Hey, I'm reaching out to you because A, B, and C. I'm not going to tell you what A, B, and C are yet, but assuming you like what A, B, and C are, am I like, what would you do with that information? Like, are you somebody involved in procuring these types of solutions for your org or not? Like, frank, like, yes or no questions to see if, yeah, they like even if like they like the elevator pitch, let's assume they love what I'm actually saying, then what? The then what is way more important than like the elevator pitch itself. So I think skipping ahead a little bit and saying, hey, assuming you love the pitch that I'm about to give you, will you then, assuming you love it, introduce me to what I assume is a steering committee of folks over there that would be involved, specifically, your sales ops or your marketing, director and leaders. So getting them to buy into the assumption early that they like what you say before you even say anything at all is also kind of a clever little trick, right? Where if they say, yes, I'm willing to potentially be your champion and give you more information if I like what you say, already has them thinking they're going to like what you say.
That's
so that'd be
so
like,
interesting.
yeah, more at like the prospecting level. But again, you have to hammer these kind of disqualifying questions home really at the start of every call throughout your sales cycle, right? Like, hey, we've had a good discovery call now with, a bunch of your stakeholders that are going to be involved. Like, assuming that went well for each of them and we're ready to progress to the next step, like, can we work together on a build out, on a minimal viable product? Can we work together on an MVP or some proof of concept? And can we loop in other stakeholders from here, yes or no? Like, get some buy-in as to what you're trying to do in your sales cycle and then attack that step.
Yep.
Right? Like, don't attack the work and do all this work of creating a custom testing environment or a sandbox or looping in resources like an SC or legal or IT from my side to answer all these long RFPs if I don't at least have your buy-in that you're going to be my champion on this agreed to kind of strategy for how we can become partners.
No, this is a great tip. I ask a series of questions, a lot of questions actually. Some of my prospects will get annoyed because of all the questions I ask, but at the same time, it turns into a discussion where they identify the pain points and they tell me their exact goal, because there's explicit goals and implicit goals. Like, they don't even know why they're calling you sometimes. They just got told by a leadership team to, like, some SVP of some sort to tell you to vet because they don't want to take that time. So this very precise question, if you like XYZ, then what? Maybe another way of asking that would be, it sounds like after you've pulled the pain point, it sounds like you are committed to change, then what? Yeah. So just keep pushing. Like, what else are we going to do after we've accomplished A, B, and C?
Getting them thinking about the steps to procure your service is more important for us than them analyzing our service. They can still do that, but let's not let them do that until at least they know what the steps are. If that analyzation goes well or whatever. Yeah, like,
I'm laughing right now because you're so absolutely right. By the way, for everyone who's listening, and hey Shar, hey Net, hey Dre, I see you guys on YouTube. What's up? So we are talking about enterprise deals where the deals are $50,000, $100,000, and so sometimes it might not relate to transactional deals because you're not dealing with a steering committee. We're mostly talking about, like, what if there are many stakeholders and there's like 10 people that you need to persuade and help support to say yes. So that's what we're trying to do from an enterprise perspective.
Yeah. And that's super important too, because usually you're talking to, like, a champion is one person and they might not actually know or be able to speak about, like, the perceived benefits that other people in the company would hope to achieve. So you have to ask them directly, like, do you speak on behalf of the entire org or are the benefits that you're talking about really just specific to your interest?
Oh man, you're opening my mind too right now, because I don't actually know what I do right in order to close these deals, but now I'm listening to you, now I'm understanding. I don't talk about the features too much with localized. Like I don't go into the weeds of like, oh, this you click on this button and you go here. Like I don't talk about that at all. I'm literally talking about how you purchase software. Like majority of the time, like what is the
Because
steps that you take to purchase localize?
that gives a stronger impression to the prospect that you've actually
Yeah.
sold this software successfully before, and this is not your first rodeo. Whereas when we start giving like these longer feature pitches and product demos or tours, that's kind of like us fishing, right, for where the value is,
Right.
as opposed to already knowing in advance, based on what they're telling us, what values they'll get. And we should be able to pinpoint really quickly and effectively what that is without having to go down the route of, let me show you PandaDoc now in its totality as a means of fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I hope you guys are getting some value out of this. Hey Ryan, he's saying great distinction. He's listening to us. He's also an account executive. So let me go ahead and go into the next question here. How do you close $1.2 million, especially 2020? I mean, that was a crazy freaking year. So let's start there.
Yeah. All right. So to qualify it, like $1.2 million means something different, like to every company, right? And actually at PandaDoc, because I started like at the company before we even had $1 million in recurring revenue, it took me about 5 years to get to that point where I did that type of production within a 12-month time frame. So yeah, and again, like I think through a lot of the things that we just discussed, whether it's making myself available for work every single day for 8 years in a row, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I think being in a point in my life where necessity breeds success, all of those things. Number one, obviously, that comes to mind too is funnel. So in order to close $1 million in business, you know, what's your average close rate? Like if it's 20%, that means you need $5 million in funnel. And that's probably more important to think about is how am I going to get to $5 million in funnel so that I have a chance to close $1 million in revenue at a 20% rate. And we could probably have a whole hour-long conversation, right, on funnel.
Yep.
But if I'm focusing just on closing, for me, it was about like, you know, I used to do transactional sales too early on, like really focus on SMB, HVT, transactional commercial sales, you know, deals between maybe even $500 to $5,000, and just try to transact like 20 or 30 of those deals a month. As the company grew and I pushed myself more up market to work with larger companies, it really became more of a longer term partnership sale where now I'm sacrificing like my ability to transact a small deal quickly in exchange for two things that are important, like to a growing company. One is ARPA, average revenue per account, that always needs to be going up as your company grows. And number two is LTV, so the lifetime value of an account. And I just realized that by taking kind of a, you know, a more hardcore process of disqualifying all that small stuff, giving myself more time to have a really thorough pre-sale relationship with highly qualified, high value prospects. That's how I got my number up year to year, was actually by focusing on less is more, working smarter, not harder, and seeing like that first contract when we get to that initial close really as the start of a relationship, right? Not the end. And so now I can get a lot more revenue. Like I think last year I did 1.2, but at least 30% of that revenue came from expansion revenue. Right? So again, like as you push yourself up market, or if your ICP is more mid-market enterprise, a lot of the times we're operating on more of like a land and expand strategy. And you can get that expansion number up to creating more revenue for yourself than closing new business after new business after new business. Both are going to be important, but if you get good at both and you care like legitimately about your new customer and check in with them and see how else you can help coordinate resources with your post-sale team to make sure they have an amazing experience up like after you sell them, that will result in expansion within an account, references to their partners, and other kind of like indirect benefits that will like for sure impact your number. So yeah, making sure you have the funnel there, but then also making sure that, yeah, you treat your customers as longer term partners and stop seeing them as sales, stop seeing them as deals. Like, I don't even like using the word deal anymore, because that just seems like, oh, we came to a deal, shake hands, I'm out
And
of here,
then
on to the next
wham
one.
bam.
For me, it's a long-term partnership where, again, like, it might take a year or two even, but that second, third, fourth, fifth addendum is 6 figures maybe, whereas the first contract was 5 figures, right? And if you just drop it off, you're not going to, give yourself a chance to build to that. So yeah, it took me a long time to build into having $1 million year, and at that point, PandaDoc was already doing probably 40+ million in recurring revenue. So yeah, it's
So help me summarize that real quick, because there's a few questions that I want to ask as a follow up. I know we're kind of going over our time. The first is, don't just acquire users as a net new MRR. Also figure out your ARPU, your average revenue per user, and your lifetime value per client, and then try to increase that along with your closing ratio, which is the number of deals you close per month from the people that you talk to. But my question is, with the expansion, this doesn't fall within the account executive realm. Usually there's a client success manager, right, that would handle the expansion deals. What are some of the things that, or you could recommend to have the two really work in tandem to strengthen
it's
this
super
relationship?
important, even if you don't get like directly compensated for expansion revenue. It's really important for every AE to have a super warm, thorough handoff to their post sales teams. Even if from there, like your post sales teams, they might get credit for the expansion revenue. Great. We still want the customer to be happy and expanding. That's still a story that's highly valuable that we can tell to other prospects in a similar vertical or in a similar region, or that might want to talk to a similar customer that's gone through that process. Well, now I have a happy reference call and a happy case study. So what I recommend doing is a formal handoff account plan where, as I'm closing a deal, I want to take extremely good notes, and I want to loop in everyone who's relevant post-sale. If I have a customer success team, onboarding specialists, solution architects or engineers, account manager, whoever it is that's going to touch this account after I hand it off, we all have to be singing from the same sheet. So what did they buy and why? Who bought it? What are their expected success metrics or business outcomes that they hope to achieve in the first 1, 2, 3 months post-sale? What are their long-term hopes that they're going to achieve a year on out from PandaDoc? Is there any pre-identified expansion potential in this account? Let me write that down and tell you what it is. Who haven't I spoken to yet that could be an additional target? And now I'm actually giving my post-sales team a playbook for success that benefits me directly or indirectly, but still benefits me. And typically it takes me like 5 or 10 minutes while all that information is fresh and I'm closing a deal. Otherwise, if you don't do that, now you're relying on your post-sales team to Slack you or email you and ask you for information, which takes your time. Or they have to go take a lot of arduous time and go into the CRM records and try to like read your shorthand notes. Or even worse, they have to ask the customer a bunch of repetitive questions that you already answered, that now they have to ask again because you didn't give them the playbook. So yeah, like, I don't really care how your org is broken up, pre-sale to post-sale. It's incumbent upon the AE to pass the book over. You know what I mean?
You're schooling me right now. You're definitely schooling me. Give me an example of this, like, super warm handoff. What does it look like? Is it via email? Is it over a call? Are you both on a call together? What does that look like for
It's
you?
something we or a lot of folks could use PandaDoc for, where we have an account planning document that goes automatically, like when we want to close one a deal in Salesforce, to the AE, the sales manager, the sales engineer if they're involved, and then the post-sale team, which usually includes an onboarding specialist, which is running the initial kickoff call, the customer success manager, which is looping in resources, and the account manager, which owns the relationship after the onboarding is done. I want all of them to see exactly what this person or this org bought and why, what was discussed, what their expectations are, and then actually like what I think is more of a custom onboarding roadmap that they should take, as opposed to like the cookie cutter, let's
Yeah.
start here in your settings, right?
Orientation. Mm.
Yeah, because I might have spent 6 to 9 months with this customer before handing them off. So you need some document or thing that passes by internally to all the actors. And then you also want to do a literal warm handoff with the customer, both via email and on a call. So I think the email is, I'm introducing you to your team that's going to be involved on the kickoff call. So you have everyone CC'd here. And then on the kickoff call, use that as an opportunity to go through onboarding timelines and deliverables, who's responsible for what, how to get in touch with everybody. And then you share that document, with the customer.
Are you also
And you
part
should
of the
be on that
onboarding?
call. Oh yeah, you should be. And it's okay. Like, it takes time. You don't want to probably be like, if you do a good job with your note taking and your handoff, you don't need to be on the whole onboarding call. In fact, I think you should just be on the first 5 minutes and say, hey, thanks again. We're really excited about this new partnership. I'm super excited to introduce you to your onboarding team. I apologize, I do have to jump in a few minutes, but I leave you in really good hands with X, Y, and Z, who are going to discuss next steps for your onboarding timelines, deliverables. And if you have any questions whatsoever, I'm still here if you need me. Otherwise, yeah.
Oh, that is so good. I love it. Yes. You're such a G.
And then you do a warm
man.
handoff. It shows you care. Like, there's too much kind of like cold handoffs after people sign up with us and subscribe, or after you close a deal, and that's just really bad, because again, there's so many opportunities during that onboarding call too to say, let's reiterate what you bought and what you hope to achieve. And it's interesting how you get new information right from customers every single time you talk to them, or
Every
maybe
call,
loop in a different resource. That happens too. Even if you're working with someone 6 to 9 months, you might still get a nugget in that onboarding call where they're like, you know what, this is awesome. Like, I have a high level of confidence, not just in PandaDoc pre-sale, which is why we bought it, but now I have a high level of confidence that post-sale, man, we get a warm handoff. You know exactly what we bought. We have a lot of resources we can deploy on your side if we need help. Now I can make referrals to Josh in confidence for my other partners, because I see the whole process end to end.
Full circle.
So, yeah.
Geez. Okay. Before I ask my last question, tell our audience where to find you.
I'm a little clandestine. I'm on LinkedIn, of course.
Right
Yeah, there you go. And then Josh at PandaDoc.com. I live and die in my email inbox like a lot of sales folks. So that might be the easiest way to hit me. Or on the gram, of course. I'm on private. But if I know you, I may accept you. Agent 5.
All right. And our final question. How does Josh close deals?
After I said I don't like the word closing deals, you're going to ask me
Yes.
that, really? How do I secure partnerships with PandaDoc?
I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna. What is it? How do you secure
partnerships?
Okay, just for you.
How do you close deals? I mean, it's
partnerships.
Again, going back to
Happy?
the theory of reciprocity, there's a number of ways we can close deals. We can apply a lot of pressure. We can give time-based incentives. We can
time-based.
Chase and inundate with messaging, right? There's a lot of ways to cross the finish line. I think for me, the best way to close a deal is going back to that concept of reciprocity. Are we crescendoing to this point where each side is taking a step, right, that gets us closer to this deal, to this partnership getting signed? So is it just me inundating someone with demos and proposals and trying to chase them down and force them to sign? Or are they reciprocating at each step? Are they introducing me around our org to have other conversations with other stakeholders? Are they helping me achieve getting an NDA executed by introducing me to their legal, so our two legal teams can have a relationship before we get to the MSA? That's kind of important. Are they introducing me to their IT to make sure that I don't spend 1 million hours selling them on the value of PandaDoc only to get blocked later by some IT manager who sees it as a project and has other requirements for where the data are stored, or certain compliance things that maybe we don't have yet that we should have talked about up front. And so there's various things I can ask for from my champion along the way to prove that they're actually a champion and get them to do things for me. And if they've done a lot for me, they've introduced me to legal, they've introduced me to IT. I had a call with the economic buyer, right? Like I have a real relationship with the person that's signing the actual deal. They know who I am. Have they spent some time in a sandbox actually doing work, building out their workflow, testing? What have they done? Like, what has their level of engagement been? And if the level of engagement is high, those are the partnerships I'm prioritizing and the ones that I'm super happy to close, because the close comes naturally after we've come through a mutual process of validation. And once we've done those two things together, then also I have no reservations in really leveling up kind of the urgency in my closing language, because it's like, look, we did all this work together. Like, you're obviously highly vested in this partnership just like I have because of all these things we've done. And then I can outline those things as a means of justifying, all right, this is typically where we now get a signature on a contract and we just go ahead with your formal onboarding. Do you have any reservations with that? And then usually, as long as we've checked off all the boxes, the answer is yes. Or even better, they might come to you and say, hey, we're ready to move forward even before I attempt to.
Gosh. So good. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I am learning a lot, relearning a lot of tips. Josh, thank you so much for gracing us with your knowledge and wisdom. It is always a pleasure connecting with you. Stick around. Let me do my outro. And then we got like 10 minutes left to connect. Okay. So, closers, I hope you enjoyed Josh's journey from becoming the first sales AE at PandaDoc, and now there's like 500-600 folks at PandaDoc. Remember his tips on how to close $1.2 million consistently. There's a lot. You have to break down this video. I'll try my best to summarize them. The first tip, number 1, disqualify and have reciprocation. The name of the game is not convincing people. You're not selling people. A deal is not just a deal, it's a partnership. It is reciprocity. Necessity breeds success. Sometimes when you are the provider, that will keep you hungry. That is its own tip in itself. Be the provider, be the man of the house. I'm just gonna call you out, Josh, as the man of the house. If deals go dark, ask why. Either they are not the right person, you're not talking to authority, or they're just not going to be a champion for you. There's really no incentive. Make sure you do your research. Ask candid questions. Attempt to disqualify from the very beginning to the second touch to the third touch. And if you find the right person, ask, then what? If you like our product, then what? Make yourself available from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Don't block out your calendars. Know your ARPUs and LTVs. And most importantly, give out time-based incentives. Find out the level of engagement, because the best way to create meaningful relationships is to validate and to find reciprocity. So if you've learned something today and you like our content, please subscribe to our channel. And until next time, peace.
Bring that ass back like a boom boom.